Okay. I don't think anybody's watching this live. If you are, thank you and welcome. I don't have a chat set up unless you're specifically watching in Google Hangouts. I guess there's a chat that's automatically there. I had some serious technical issues that precluded me from broadcasting on time. I'm looking at the clock now. I'm an hour and 15 minutes later than when it was supposed to start. And people just couldn't hear me, couldn't see me, and I tried to reboot and everything. Here was the thing, I believe, Java. Don't load up Java. That's what I'm saying. My light's changing. Java's a dog, and I don't think Mac people have to deal with this, but I must have gone, and I know this, Java's been around for years, and I always forget, and I load it because a website requires it. And then it's a dog and it slows my entire system down. So that's why I had it again. I loaded it, and ever since then, it's been so slow. And I was thinking, I just paid for faster internet. Why is this so slow? And I uninstalled Java. I did reset my Google Chrome too to all its original settings. I don't know. I'm thinking Java. Anyway, here is the new and improved version of free and inexpensive images for your website. All right, my friends. Thank you, by the way, for people who are watching the replay. Please, I know you're watching it on YouTube, so please do leave comments and questions, and I will be checking there and answering them. You can email me directly too as well. And thank you for showing up. If you showed up to the original, thanks for doing that, even though technically challenging. But hopefully you guys learned from my troubles. I'm happy to pass on my failures to you, my experience, not my failures. All right. We're talking today about free and inexpensive images for your website. And I am, of course, addressing voiceovers, but again, this is information that anybody can use. But I will be directing certain things toward voiceovers. What I want to talk about is the fact that things have really changed in the web over the last few years, and especially for voiceovers. Back in the day, and I would say like in the 2000s, every voiceover had a Flash website. It was very animated, it was very cartoony, it had caricatures and cartoons and all that stuff. And we know that Flash has gone by the wayside now. You can't have a Flash website anymore. They do have animation alternatives, and they can be just as involved as Flash. It's just done differently now, and it's done in a way that will show up on iPads and iPhones, because Flash will not show up on those. Plus, it had security issues, which is why Steve Jobs went that direction in the first place. So, in some ways, websites have become a little more boring, I think, and most of that has to do with the fact that we are using mobile devices. We are using every size under the sun, for anything from, tiny, tiny little to TVs. And is it portrait? Is it landscape? Whatever. Portrait, landscape. And we have to accommodate now for all of those different views. And so we come up with something called responsive, which I'll talk about. And it just means we do have to simplify our designs a little bit, because otherwise we can have a more complicated design, but it's going to require a lot more work. It's going to be a lot more expensive, just a lot more to maintain. So that's why you're starting to see things be so much more simple. We're using larger images, less text, less fancy design aspects to it. And WordPress has some to do with that as well, because WordPress themes are kind of that way, and people tend to buy a theme and adjust it. And I think it's a melding of the two issues, but regardless, that's where we're at right now. So I'm going to show you some examples of where we are in web design today, and with regard to images, not only layout, but images, and how that pertains to you as a voiceover. and what doesn't pertain to you, because a lot of it won't pertain to you, but I want you to see what's out there. Not that you guys, I know y'all probably surf the web, right? You surf the net, and as they say, and you've seen stuff, but there's a lot of bad stuff out there. And I look at a lot of good stuff. I try to keep my eyes on the good stuff. So I want to show you the latest and greatest. Some of it's advisable, some of it's not advisable. It depends on your brand. So we're going to look through that and talk about how images will actually increase your viewership and your conversion. If you're not familiar with the word conversion, it just means it turns viewers into clients. It gets them to do what you want them to do, which is call you and hire you. So images, just there's a visceral emotional reaction that we as humans, because we are visual, that we have. So, and of course, I'm talking about people who are not visually impaired, obviously, because I know some voiceovers are visually impaired and can still do it. But generally for us, vision is just has a strong effect on our brain. Graphics, like I said, can increase conversion. It helps make space on the page. One of the things we'll be talking about is the fact that we're using a lot less text and more imagery, and we're making more space. There's just more what they would call white space, which is a little misleading because it's not necessarily white, but it's blank space. It's I call it breathing room, and which I like because that's kind of the way I would design anyway. If you have graphics, if you add imagery, photographs, illustration, it has to have a purpose. You can't just add it because you feel like you need something pretty. Now, you could throw a background in there to get some texture, but that texture better match your brand. I mean, if you're like, if you do video games, you know, and you're like the deep voice that does, you know, whatever, bad guy in video games, I don't game. So to have like a black, metallic, scratchy looking background might be just what you need. So, and that alone can bring a great amount of interest to an otherwise boring page that might just have a solid color. So there's the things you can do that don't have to be all in your face. You could either have illustrations or photos with text over them. We're going to see some examples of that, buttons on top of them. So you can use photos as a background and have your content still in front, but you have to do it a certain way. We'll go through all of that. The top reason anybody's coming to your website is because they want to hear your voice, right? So we want to make sure that above the fold, which just means whatever comes up on the screen when it first loads, is going to be your logo, is going to be your demos, and contact information, call to action, which is your contact information. So we want to make sure those things are on the top. So we're not going to do some of the stuff that I'm going to show you, but I just want to show you what's going on out there so you can keep it in mind when you're thinking about your own website. Get the juices going. I'm trying to get your juices going. So maybe you could say, well, I wouldn't do that whole thing, but kind of like this one aspect of it. Maybe I can, you know, do it a little differently. So that's what we're hoping to achieve here. The trend today is definitely large photos, really big photos. Back in the day, we're doing the opposite of what we used to tell people to do. You can have really large photos. They still have to be optimized for the web, okay? So that means that they still have to be sized. They have to be set to the dimensional size that you need, and they have to be a file size. They have to be compressed so that they're a smaller file size, because normally when you buy, even if you buy a stock image, they can be just massive. They can be massive in dimension, and they can be a massive file size, and they take forever to download. And that's just not good. So there are programs that will do some compression for you. I personally use Photoshop, which does a great job of exporting graphics for the web, and it does a fantastic job of compressing. There's also a plugin called WP Smush. And if you load a graphic that is under, I think it's 2 megabytes, that's like huge. 1 megabyte is huge for a graphic. But if you happen to load something up to 2 megabytes, WP Smush will do its best to compress that file to a smaller file size. This isn't the optimal place to do it. Actually, what I do is I use Photoshop to export as a web graphic, so it does some compression while maintaining quality. And then when I put it into WordPress, I also use Smush, because Smush will compress as much as possible without degrading quality. So then you're getting the smallest possible graphic, and that's just going to help your website load faster, which is important for the viewer, and it's important for Google too, because they will base rankings on the speed of your website, believe it or not. So voiceovers have to be careful. You can use a large photo, but you want to make sure that your player is really obvious. You don't want to distract from your player. So that's the main thing. So the words that you hear or will be hearing, if you hear anything about web trends for 2016, you hear the word responsive. We've been hearing that one for a while. Still, of course, it's that thing. Responsive means that your website adjusts itself depending on the viewport. And by viewport, I mean just depending on like your browser size, or if you're on an iPad or whatever. It's not that it will shrink and fit, like it all fits in there, okay, but it's super tiny. That's called adaptive. That's old school. But responsive means it actually adjusts its layout to compensate for the smaller window or the larger window. So I do have an example of that. And let's see how this goes, because this was part of what I was trying to do before and couldn't. I have a lot of websites to load up. All right, so that appears to be loading. I'm going to share screen with you now. Okay. All right. I think this is a cool site. First of all, I like the look. Let's first of all look at the fact, what's graphical in this? Well, the logo, of course. This is actually a graphic, this text here, but it doesn't have to be. This actually could be done with Google Fonts. But what is graphic is this background with the kind of turquoisey, greeny color, and then it kind of fades off into a cream color. I think I can kind of see where it ends. I'm not sure. It may just go cream all the way down. And then the background of these little boxes. See, just these little scratchy feels. Give it scratchy lines, give it a feel that's interesting. Now, I hope you can see as I resize this. I hope you can see the resizing. Check it out. Okay, first of all, I love the way the background is behaving. Now, it's going to resize as I shrink it. It is resizing. You can't see this. I can see that you can see this. Everything's resizing, but at some point, we're going to hit a point where this stuff and this stuff just plain old don't fit as the window gets smaller. And we're, so we're trying to mimic the idea of, if you're on an iPad or, iPhone even, and it hits what we call a break point. You see how that happens? The layout is adjusting itself. The logo's moving on top of those menu items, and then these boxes down here go from 4 across to 2 across. So we've made room, and it's going to hit another breaking point as we keep going. Again, some things are shrinking, but also we're just plain old running out of room where it doesn't make sense anymore. And then it goes to this. Those boxes now have disappeared, and we just have this kind of a menu here at the top. It's just really nicely done. Really nicely done, responsive website. So, and it probably wouldn't go any smaller than that. That's about the size of maybe even an iPhone 5, if anyone even has that anymore. So that's how you can kind of see what goes on with responsive websites. That's a really good example. back to the other thing you hear, and when I refer to like the really big image on the homepage, it's called the hero image. And I have an example here that looks actually really yummy. I'll go ahead and enlarge this again. This would be a hero image. In this particular case, it takes up everything above the fold, right? There's more to the website than this, but it takes up everything above the fold. And even as we resize it, it adjusts the size so that it still takes up everything above the fold. Well, in this particular case, it kind of makes sense. Don't you want, these are like candied pecans. And look, that one right there, I could eat that one, yum. So this is a very popular trend, large photos, large. And what? Not much going on here. They put their logo here, their tagline, and a button. And this is one of the things that's popular too, still, is a clear button. Just an outline and see-through otherwise. And then they have their menu underneath, and it's a shopping site, so it's a little bit different than what you would want. But here's another use of imagery. Now this is a slideshow. You know, I wouldn't necessarily recommend a slideshow, but just look at it as the image size that you could put in between sections of your website that would help to illustrate you, or, you know, not you, but your brand, what you bring to the table, what's your niche, what are you talking about in the paragraph prior to it. The image can reflect that, be a metaphor of that. So it doesn't have to be a giant image at the top. It could be something like this, and it could even be smaller than this. We're going to look at images that are smaller. But is this for you? Not really, not in this particular layout. Can we do large images in the background? Yeah, you can. There are things you could do, like darken. You could darken this image so you can still see it, but it creates a darker background so that the white, anything white or light, shows up really clear above it. Especially, you don't want that player getting lost, you know, visually. When I say getting lost, I mean visually. The other thing that's really big right now is called flat design. So let me bring that guy up. Flat design means none or very little drop shadow, no beveling. If you know what beveling is, making it look kind of curvy, making things look kind of shiny. We used to have, here's a little bit of rounding on the buttons here, but most of the buttons, like we saw in the previous website, are squared off or very slight rounding. There's no beveling. It doesn't look glassy or shiny or have any depth. It has no drop shadow around it. And you can see here now, these illustrations take me back to the Atari days. They're very, very flat and very plain. I'm not saying go that direction, but the point is, it's just flat. It's very flat looking. Oh yeah, and this website's actually going away, but these little guys laugh, or they blink. That's what they blink. It's cute. But I mean, look at that. It really does remind me of Atari. Very, very, very plain, very, I guess, retro at this point. I'm not suggesting that you go this flat with this cartoony stuff, but the idea is no beveling, no drop shadows, very simple, flat on flat kind of look. So you'll hear flat design that's still very popular. And I'm going to show you another flat design that's not so cartoony, but still flat. All right. This is a flat design. There, and again, here's that button with, you can actually see through this part of it. It's hard for you to probably tell. Here's an example of a large image. It's a hero image. It doesn't take up the entire above the fold, but it's large. And this is something you have to think about if you're going to do any kind of full width image like this. You got to think horizontal, not vertical. You can't find this really cool vertical image and try and make it work here. You have to find things that you can, and you have to crop it, because nothing is shot in this shape, is it? Your camera doesn't take pictures in that shape. So you have to think about, when you crop it, what does it look like? And a lot of times when you shrink these images, although this one's not, see, now it is, now some of the images starting to disappear. Come back, come back. See, look at this part right here. It's starting to disappear and get cropped off because of the sizing for the phone. These are the things you have to think about with these large images. But again, here's the idea that it's giving you a feel. You get the gears and the rust and all of that. And this is about Craftsman. So these are like old tools, I guess, or whatever. But the white text on it, you can still see, you can still read it. The menu is still obvious. If you had your player here, maybe your player would be mostly in white. Or, you know, even this color here is pretty sweet, you know, as an accent color in your player. So you could still do that and have this kind of background as long as it fits your brand. But the flat aspect here is there's no drop shadows anywhere. There's no beveling. Even with these kind of smaller images here, there's no drop shadow to the background. So even though it does have photos, and here's those clear buttons, just the outline, even though they're photos, it's still flat. There's no beveling, no glassy, all that kind of stuff. It's all gone by the wayside. There's something else called material design. I'm not even going to go into that. I have a link for that, but it's something Google came up with. They call it material design, and they're trying to integrate the basics of design concepts, which are alignment, repetition, contrast, balance, and proximity. Those are just like the basics that you learn if you ever go to art school or anything like that. But it's a little obscure to me right now, and it's fairly new. So I just want to put that out there, that if you hear something called material design, it's out there. It's combining these concepts with the flat look. It's very hard to conceive, but it is a buzzword that's coming up. And the other thing is minimalism. And minimalism is just kind of what we're seeing, you know, even here. Simple, all very, very little text, right? Images, even down below here, very little text, headline, text, button, small image of a person, large images, background texture. Hopefully you can see that. So that's the minimalism. We're just, again, driven by the, you know, the mobile, the responsive issues that we have now. I just want to show you a few more types of things that are out there today. I want to get you guys up to speed on what is a modern website. This one has a hero image, but it's not as big, right? But it's got the hero image. Put the logo in the center with this is either the tagline or the slogan, small but mighty buffalo, or just a line of text. It doesn't even look like a slogan. Then the menu, request a quote, that's the call to action. You've got contact us, but you've got request a quote. You got to tell them what to do, right? We respond to that. We respond to being told what to do. Even I know about calls to action, and I still respond what to do, because we're people. That's what we do. I think if you notice when this page loaded, there was some circular animation here. That's pretty popular. Again, this is flat. There's no drop shadows. This button looks like it has just a little bit of shading there. I don't know if you can tell that, but it does. And there's just a smidgen bit of shadowing, and the shadows don't even match. So that's not even good. The other thing I want to point out is logos. This is something I do encourage voiceovers to have. Put slideshow up there. See, I think that's distracting. Logos of your clients somewhere toward the bottom of your homepage or farther down gives you street cred. You can have them like these are in rows. I can see there's 3 rows, but there's not really the column. There's no, I don't know, it feels a little haphazard to me, but they're all sized, you know, so that they all seem to go together. That's that kind of proximity thing where they all have they have a similar size, and because of where they're located, they all go together. We'll see another example of putting logos up that feels a little more organized to me. So again, you might see little columns like this. If you blog, there's a lot of times where you could say, these are my 3 most recent articles, click here to read more, and you go over to your blog if you're so inclined. It doesn't have to be blog though. It could be little glimpses of your other pages, and they click to your other web pages if you have a couple. The other thing I want to point out is here's another line of logos. That's interesting. Wait a minute. Am I in the same website? Yeah, it's kind of weird. I wouldn't repeat them like that. The footer tends to be forgotten about, especially in voiceover websites, because voiceover websites are small. They don't have a lot of stuff. We don't need a lot of navigation. So what do you put in a footer? Well, the footer is a super important place. For one thing, if you're gathering people to join an email list, you would definitely want to put the sign up information down here. You definitely want to put your contact information, company name, your business name, right? If you don't want to put your full street address, because a lot of you work at your home office, just put, the city, state, phone numbers, any way that you want people to contact you. Other things are, if you don't have that many clients, you could put them down here as well. There's a lot of different things. They've got here certifications, they've got various links. So we'll look at the footers and other websites as we go along. All right. Now these next few links are going to actually be themes. So just ignore this thing on the side here, pretend that's not there. This is actually a theme. And this one theme called Avada can just take on so many looks. It's actually one that I've used quite a bit because you can make it look different very nicely. Okay, so what do we have here? A hero image, but it's dark, right? It's darkened down and it fades into black. You got your logo in the upper left. This is most common. Navigation can be up here or down here, but I think it does better up here. Slogan or tagline and slogan. Motivation is what gets you started. Habit is what keeps you going. That's probably the slogan. And then a button. Remember the plain squared corners, clear button, just the border. And this one has a little bit of a mouse over effect, just changes color a little bit. But again, with this darkened image and that bold white text on there, you can use a background image like this and still have all your player and everything not be competing. You're getting the feel of this website. It's a gym, so we're looking at muscles. So you're getting a feel from it, but it's not overpowering. And now this is very common too. You see this as I'm scrolling down, this overlapping where you cover up with other stuff. That's not quite parallax. If you've heard the word parallax, and we're going to see that, parallax is where the background moves a little bit too, but in this case, we're just kind of covering up. And this is very common. I want you to notice blocks, chunks of stuff, horizontal. This is what a lot of these websites are doing. If you look at this as one giant block of stuff, full width, horizontal, then it's divided by this change in color, another block of stuff, full width, horizontal. The text isn't full width, but the block goes full width. And then the next section, delineated by change of color. It's got a little arrow thing, but really it's the color. The next block of stuff, full width, but the content isn't full width. It's all falling kind of in the same area. Again, call to action, sign up, call to action. Then we go down to the next block of stuff, these little kind of animations. That's kind of cool, actually. A background image. I hope you guys can see that. There's a background image there just to give it, it's almost more texture than image, but it's the gym. And it's just subtle enough. I don't know, it just gives more interest than if this was just solid. I like it. Here's another block of stuff. Starts with this change of color up there, and we've got a headline and some other little pieces. But here's where it ends, because we have then the next block of stuff, which includes a headline and some other images. And then it goes on and on, because this is a theme. I wouldn't make a page that long, but you get the idea. Horizontal, full horizontal width blocks of stuff. Technical term. This is another version of Avada. Again, background image This one's darkened a little bit. It's also just kind of softened a little bit. So you have background image and then again, the fat white text on top of it, logo in the upper left, which is most common. That's where people's eyes go first. So that's why the logo usually goes there. Menu. The hero image, granted it's a slideshow, but just think of it as just one picture because I wouldn't change out the images like that. I think that is distracting. But you can just have the one image and your text there, hero image. Your player can go on top of here again without competing for the background. And here's that overlap again. And then go on to these horizontal blocks of stuff, even little horizontal block of stuff. Usually you put a call to action in something like that. Call to action, by the way, is telling people what to do, if I didn't already say that. Okay, right? Blocks of stuff. Let me close some of these out now because I don't want to run into any more of that speed issue like I had before. Okay, make sure we got everything showing here. Yeah, we do. I'm going to fill that up, verifying my player is working. All right. Same thing. Need I repeat myself? I love coffee feel. Again, it's switching out images. It's a slideshow, but it's a hero image. Just think of it as one picture. Now, this is a full color picture, right? It's full brightness, full color. And so what they did was they took the text and put a semi-transparent background on it so that you can still read the text despite the imagery and colors going on. But also, it looks to me like the text lands on a kind of blank area of the image, even with the fruit. There's a call to action. I think this is too busy. I don't think I would do a full bright image like this. I think I would either lighten it or darken it, but you got the same kind of concept. And again, this is just showing you what's going on, these same kind of buttons. Mouse down. Now this one's parallax. Check it out. That background image is slightly changing position with regard to the cover up. Do you see that? That's parallax to give you sort of a dimensional, three-dimensional feel while still being flat. There's no drop shadows involved. It's just this, they're moving at different speed, just like they would in real life, because this would be considered close up and that's farther away. So a lot of times that can make me dizzy and feel a little bit nauseous, but it's kind of fun too. Again, blocks of stuff, thin block of stuff with parallax. Check it out. Look what the wine glass is doing. Don't forget, you got to keep in mind, what is that gonna do when I shrink it? Actually holds out pretty well. But what happens is you do start to see different parts of the image. Let's see what happens to the hamburger. I'm starting to get hungry. Or the coffee cup. Now we're just cropping on top of it, right? It resized for a while. See how it's the photo's resizing, but at some point they stop resizing and they just get cropped. Then the content is resizing, but we're cropping the image. So now we don't even see the coffee cup, which actually is okay. I think in this case, it's not bad. You still get the feel of what's going on, but keep that in mind. If this is something you're going to do, you don't always have full control over what part of that image is going to be shown. So I'm going to leave it at that for now and move on. So what should a voiceover be doing? I'm showing you all this stuff, all the trends of today. And I always say just because you can doesn't mean you should. You don't need spinny things necessarily. You don't need animations and stuff. I didn't even show you, there's a lot of these websites have video in the background, which on a very, very rare occasion, I think is appropriate. Most of the time, I think it's distracting. And I find myself looking at the video, and then if you quizzed me right away and said, what's the name of this company? I couldn't tell you. without going and, purposely looking for the logo, because the video took me away from that. So above the fold, again, that's what shows immediately in the browser window, and it's a moving target, but generally speaking, you want your logo, your audio, and your call to action. All right. Here is a hero image, but look at what they've done. Now, this is a theme also. It's not a real band, but I love what they did here. This guy is off to the side. There was more to the image than this, but they faded it out. They darkened him, faded it to black. I can actually kind of see where it ends, but that's only me because I have those kind of eyes. Menu in white, logo, upper left. They centered their information here. View tour dates. It's a call to action. It's kind of small and minimized, which is not always good. I would make it a bigger thing. And some social media links. I think this is Parallax too. Yes, it is. You don't need all that, right? But it's just a thought that you could have an image. Let's see what happens when we resize it. So he starts squinching over. The menu switches. This is another thing about responsive. You see, it's called a hamburger menu. And when you squinch it enough, this hamburger menu comes up. And this is all the stuff that it was laid out full width before, but now it's hidden behind a little hamburger. And in this particular case, the menu stays viewable or visible no matter where you scroll on the page. So keep shrinking. Our guy's moving over now. Until he stays in the image the whole time. But because it's darkened, you can still read the stuff on top of it. I think that's super cool, actually, the way they handled that. So that's something to think about. This is another theme. I'm going to remove the frame. This is, okay. This is maybe a lesson in what not to do. Okay, the background is animated, the background image. Look, there's so much going on here. All right, first of all, it is animated, and look at this bar coming across the top and being bright red. Does that not steal your eyes? It's like, what's going on there? Oh my goodness. Guys, nobody calls me on this phone. Okay. So we have a large image, and what they did was they kind of put a little pattern on top of it. It's still very bright. I mean, this is a specific audience they're going for, but to put some kind of textured screen type of feel over it is another way that you could soften that background image and have everything else still visible to you. Red, I don't suggest using such a bright red so much because it is hard on the eyes. It's straining. But check out what's happening here. The content of the page, remember we had those wide blocks of stuff? But the text actually stayed within a certain width. This is that width. We don't have the wide blocks going all the way to the edge, but look what it's doing. It's scrolling these little pieces of stuff. It's got the sidebar and then the main content scrolling over the image, and the image stays in place. What? That's crazy, right? It's a little busy. I'm gonna see what happens when I scrunch it. We turned into the hamburger there. We still have all the same stuff going on. At some point, yeah, you don't want that going on. I think the slideshow should stop, because if somebody's looking at this on a, oh, it didn't, it's still going, but it's just doing a gentle fade. I mean, at some point you're causing somebody on their phone or their mobile device to have to download a lot of stuff, and that's eating into their, what they have available on their plan. So you're taking up money from them by doing that, really. And you don't want to slow down the loading of your website. Now, here's something I teach part-time at a local community college, the College of DuPage, or COD as we call it. They also have a large image in the background, and look at this, blocks of stuff. Now theirs is all over to the left, which I would never do. That's old. That is an old thing to do. But to have this in the center, you know, the main content in the center, they've got their sidebar on the left this time and their main content on the right, and scroll down, the image stays put, and you scroll through stuff, and they have a lot of menus, a lot of stuff going on. Here's a call to action, apply now. No slideshow, just an image, but check it out. If I reload the page, new image. That's pretty cool, right? So you're not making people crazy with constant image changing in the background, but it's also a little more interesting if somebody's going to come back to your site more than once to get a different image. So that's pretty cool. And of course, look at how it adjusts its size, and let's see what happens when we scrunch. I think these guys don't have a mobile site. I take that back. What I'm trying to say is this site is not responsive, but they have a mobile version because they have their own IT people doing this. So they have a secondary website that works on mobile because they have so much going on. I don't know how they figure it all out. But just to point out this kind of concept. All right. So now that I've showed you all the different kinds of things images are being used for today, where do we go to get them? First of all, I want to talk about stock images, and try not to select images that look staged or look like stock images. Any of you who've been around for a while know what I'm talking about. Stock images have been in use since the 90s, really. And they used to cost a boatload of money, like hundreds of dollars. And then they got real cheap. They started to go down, down, down. They got cheap. And now they're starting to go back up again. So that makes me sad. And there's a reason for that. We'll get into it. But the thing is, people who've been on the web for a while have a certain visual literacy. That's a great term. Throw that one around, makes you sound smart. Visual literacy means that we're wise to a lot of things now visually. We look for way more. Think about movies from the 40s, you know, and then like, okay, go to the 10 Commandments, you know, the old one, and the sea, you know, and the Red Sea splits parts. That was a big deal, right? And you heard the stories, they did stuff with Jello and whatever, I don't know. People were amazed by that. They were amazed by that. Now, would you see that in a movie today? Oh my gosh, no, but we've got green screen. We've come so far because we're onto that stuff already. And that's all my long explanation for why you don't want to go with a cheesy or typical stock photo, because people feel like you're duping them and they don't want to be duped. They want things that look real and feel real. That doesn't mean you can't buy a stock photo. You just don't want to buy one that looks very typical. It's got to be specific to you. You know, it's got to tell your metaphor, tell your story. There's a group called Kissmetrics, KISSMETRICS, and they're an organization that aggregates analytics, marketing, and testing results on the web. So put that in your hat and think about it. Anyway, they're smart people and they pull a lot of statistics together. And this is what they say about it. Your prospects will know if you're trying to fool them with people shaking hands in suits. So in order to get a higher conversion rate today, you need to choose stock photos intelligently, even if you have to spend more money. Your site has to look professional enough to convert better. If the stock photos you go for look obvious, you get a thumbs down from your visitors. In other words, visitors are onto it and they're bored by it and they don't even pay attention. It's just like visual noise to them. So be smart and go for the stock photos that you know will be right for your site in every way. So that's what Kissmetrics says about stock images. And then another guy, here's a guy that I follow. His name is Derek Halpern, and his website is socialtriggers.com, SOCIALTRIGGERS.com. He's an expert in conversion rates. He does academic research and personal case studies related to content marketing and conversion rates. And believe it or not, he is way more interesting than that sounds. He does a lot of video. Check him out. He's a New Yorker. He's, everything he says, he's yelling. He's hysterical, but he's a smart cookie. And here's what he says about it. When you're running a website, whether you're a corporation, a small business, a freelancer, or any kind of business, you should almost always include a picture of yourself. People like to connect with people, not faceless corporations or businesses. Now that's regarding a picture of yourself. This is a hot topic for voiceovers. And I just want to put this out to you. This is somebody who studies the stuff on the web. It's not just in the bubble of voiceovers, but it's in the web as a whole. Putting a picture of yourself on your website somewhere, and for voiceovers, I suggest below the fold, makes people feel like they've met you. Not only does it add imagery to your website, add interest to your website, but people feel like they've met you. Now you have to make sure it's professional. Don't do a selfie or don't use your webcam. Get a professional shot, but not like one with the background, where the typical like we had for our high school. Get your picture taken out on the street or out against a brick wall or something that makes it interesting. That's something that shows you, because you are your brand. So show yourself off. So that's my spiel about pictures of yourself. Again, if your coach says don't do it, don't do it. But that's my position as a web person. All right, where to go? Finally, right? She's finally getting to it. This used to be called iStockPhoto, and the website is still iStockPhoto.com. I'm going to provide a PDF download of all the websites that I show here, in case you miss anything. But iStock, as you can see now, it's called iStock by Getty Images. This is why prices are going up. Getty Images is a stock photo company that's been around for many years, before even the internet. And they charged a lot of money, hundreds of dollars, to if you wanted to purchase their images. And those prices stuck around when the web came about, and they were so expensive. You really, really had to think about it if you wanted to use a stock image. Then places like iStockPhoto came along, and they started to grow a huge library of stock images that you could buy for $10 a piece for a full-size image, and they were nice. And so then we were kind of free to go, hey, I can actually afford to put a few stock images or have an image in my blog. It's always good to have an image in your blog article. But now Getty bought iStock, and the prices are going up. Yay. Just to point that out to you. They're still affordable, and if you're just going to do one stock image in your website, or even two, it's still worth the money because of the conversion that it instigates. Excuse me. Now I want to point out, even this website, even iStock itself, I'm going to enlarge this. Big background image. Again, if I reload this, they have different images showing up. That's one of their illustrations, because they have illustrations and photos and videos and audio, all stock, that you can purchase. So the first thing to do is meet you with you can put in some keywords and search whether you want images, photos, illustrations, whatever. And if you scroll down, they have categories. You can just kind of click on different categories if you want. Or you could say, browse, here's all their categories. Now, it's probably easier to put some keywords in and search. But let's just take a look at their background images. It says photos, but they have illustrations too. Because I think background textures are a nice way to add interest to your website. Again, making it appropriate for your brand. Like I was saying, if you're doing dark, scary stuff, You know, maybe this image or that image would be appropriate for your background. I went ahead and clicked on it so you can see. We can actually enlarge this. It's got its watermark all over, but look at that. It's kind of cool. It's almost like this dark, scary forest, but it's kind of metallic and scratchy. That would be a super cool background. Now, you're looking at this going, oh, I could just download this image. Well, no, you can't. You have to buy it. I am currently logged in. You have to create an account, which is free. It's free to look. And so you create an account, and then you have the option to get stuff and see that they have different sizes. And notice as I mouse over the different sizes, how this number, don't worry about this side, but this side here, 5,000 by 5,000 pixels for the extra, extra large, or extra 3X, XXX. That's huge. That's for print. Now, if you think about my monitor right now is set to 1680 by 1050 pixels. So my monitor right now is showing a resolution of 1680. That would be the full width. And if I had a 5,000 wide image, obviously it's going to go way beyond the borders of what I'm seeing. And now everybody's going to have different resolution, but it just, you know, that's just too much. 2X is probably too much. Now they're all the same price. So whether you get the teeny weeny one at 693, it's square, so 693 squared, or 3XL is the same price, which is kind of amazing. They didn't used to do it that way. So you used to be able to cheaper for the small, more expensive for the large. Now it's one price and it's a little bit higher. But I would go usually larger than what I need. If I want this to fill my whole screen and not have to repeat, which is a whole other issue. But if I want this to fill my whole screen, I would probably go for something that's a little bigger than what I want, because here's the thing. It is easier to take an image and shrink it down, a JPEG especially. It's easier to do that than to take a small photo and enlarge it. A small photo and enlarge it gets fuzzy and pixelated and ugly. Large photo, shrink it down, will maybe need a little bit of addressing as far as quality, but it's still good quality. So never go up, always go down. So say I want to get the large. Pick that. Download this photo. Oh, I have, this is only one credit. You guys, I'm not showing you what I wanted to show you. I actually have some credit in here, and I don't want to do that. But what I would do, because it's only one credit. Their images are either 1 credit or 3 credit. Their Essentials collection is 1 credit, and their Signature collection, which I don't see listed anywhere, is 3 credits. And so you purchase credits, and then whatever you've purchased, that allows you to be able to download. And if you don't have enough credits and you click download, it's going to tell you, or if you, the download, the first button, it will tell you don't have enough credits, you got to buy more. So I'm not going to download this, but that's not bad. 1 credit for this super cool background image. Right? Not bad. Let's go to pricing. All the places are trying to sell you. I think everybody under the sun is trying to get you to subscribe to them. So they highlight their subscription area, but you do not have to subscribe. You remember, you join, but your account is free. The subscription comes where if you're going to use a boatload of images, you don't want that. Pay per download is what you want. Notice how they kind of downplay it over here on the left. So here's how you can buy credits. 1 credit is $12. So that background image is $12. 3 credits is $33. So if you pick one of their signature images, it's going to cost you $33. And then you can buy more credits. The more credits you purchase at one time, the cheaper per credit they become. But you know, unless you're going to be using a lot of images, I wouldn't purchase that many. They're only good for a year. And even though you paid for them, if you don't use them after a year, they disappear. So that's in the small print. So just buy what you need. If you think you're going to use, no, you know what? I would just stick with buying, exactly what you need. You got that one credit image you want, buy the one credit for $12, and then you'll go through normal shopping cart, enter your credit card, that kind of thing. So that's how you handle that. They also have illustrations. So we can click just on illustrations. And what if we want to look at textures there? Probably see a lot of the same things, but there's no photos on this one. It is only graphics. Sorry, illustrations. Trying to scroll, please. It's taking a while to load. Lots and lots of stuff here. And by the way, when you scroll down, it's not just the one page. This is page one of 3,021 pages of options. Obviously, you're not going to go through 3,000 pages. So hopefully you're going to find, I will go back as far as maybe 5 pages before I'm like, ugh, I got to find something here. Or else this isn't the place for me to look, because there are other places. Here you can see, you can filter it by their essentials if you only want to pay the one credit, or you really want to see, well, what's their top quality? Let me click on their signature options. So these are all the 3 credit images. These are $33 a piece. Now, some of them, like this one, these are actually separate backgrounds that you can use. These can enlarge because they're illustration. You can actually enlarge them without degrading. So you can just use like one piece of this as your background. And so you're actually getting 9 backgrounds for the price of one. And then some of these other ones are just the singular. Same thing here, circular backgrounds, that kind of thing. So just to show you that, textures and things that you can purchase. And again, you can click on them. Oh, by the way, let's pick one. I'll just pick this one. Oh, I didn't have to do that. I'm interested in this one. So I click on it to see a bigger version. I'm like, this could be what I need. It's just a nice texture, kind of fits I do like rustic, if you're a man, you do kind of the cowboy voice, Marlboro man, rustic sounding, gravelly kind of thing. This might be just for you. So you do this thing, they have these light boxes. See this little plus sign here? Click on that and you can create what's called a light box. That's a reference to the old days when we used to use light boxes. Basically, you're creating a little folder that you name and you save this image into, because it's a possibility. You're shopping around right now, so you can add. You can see I've got several light boxes, so I could put it in one that already exists, or I can make a new one and it'll store it for me. And then I can go flip through and pick out several different backgrounds, and then I can go into my light box. By clicking on light boxes and then selecting one of them, the one that I'm working with, and I can see all the different backgrounds that I picked, the textures, and I can compare them and decide, well, I'm not sure which one I really want to use. I ultimately ended up using this one. These are all signature, so they're a little higher end. But I mean, that's pretty convenient, right? So you can kind of do a quick grab of everything that you think you like, and then look at them here together and easily weed out the ones you don't like. So you can either remove the ones you don't like or just leave them there and just select the one you do like. And then you would go through the purchasing process. So that's iStock. Obviously, I spent a lot of time on that. That's my go-to. This is my go-to, and Canva is my other go-to, which I'll get to at the end. This is turning out to be a long video. I should probably break it into 2. All right. Other places you can go. I'm not going to spend as much time on these. Dreamstime is another one that I have some luck with, and they have some free images. Okay, there are free images out there. Beware of just doing a search for free photos or free images, because there could be malware that you download on your computer. They could just be very spammy. You could end up with a bunch of pop under windows that get opened up. you know, just anything from just dropping crap on your computer to doing malicious things. So beware of those. It's not going to hurt you to visit them necessarily, but if you're going to click on anything there, I would just go with the ones maybe that I suggest, because some of the other ones maybe aren't as trustworthy. Dreamstime does have free images. So again, you have to have a login here, but I think I can search without the login because I do have an account. But let's see what happens. I had paintbrushes typed in here because you paint with words. How cool is that? You paint with words. Somebody can use that. So I put in paintbrushes to see if, and this might be a background image that you fade out, or it could be an image that you put, you know, the size that you see right here, and put it within your text as you're describing how you paint with words. I don't know. It's up to you. I'm trying to see, how do I know if it's free or not? Because I know they do have free images. I'm not going to sign up right now. Free images are much more limited. See if it'll search within this category. Yeah, you don't have quite as many, although some of them are still here. So some of those other images were free, but the way you know for sure is to select free images. They also have stock video, and that's, I think their stock images are illustration and photo. It's not as lovely looking, and it's not as well known as iStock, but you can get free stuff here. And if the free image works, it's good. Don't pick free just because it's free. I'm telling you, you're investing. This is marketing budget. So don't pick free unless it's super wonderful. And every once in a while they are. So Dreamstime, DREAMSTIME.com. You can purchase, or you can find free. You can find out what's the latest, what's most popular. Next, there's a lot of them. I don't think I'm going to go through all of these. I'll put the list up of other ones. There's one called depositphotos.com, which is a good collection, but there's nothing free in them, but they are cheaper than iStock, and they have some very nice images in there, actually. There's Photofolia. That's FOTOLIA.com. Only the smallest images are free, and then the larger ones you pay for, but I think it's still cheaper than iStock. Then there's something called Free Digital Photos. Let's just go to one of these. Free Digital Photos. Free photos, download free and premium stock photos and illustrations. Free and premium. So it's called Free Digital, but they're not all free. So you have to be careful about how you search here. And I'm not even sure how you know for sure when you're getting free. So if I put paintbrushes and search, all license types. How do you know if it's free or not? I guess you find one and click on it. You can tell I don't use this one. They're not going to have, they're not as nice. I'm guessing these probably are free because they're just not nearly as nice and high quality. Let's pick this one. Smallest image, they're okay. So you do have to pay for them. Same thing as the other one. The larger images you pay for. Granted, the prices are a little better. The super high res is $10, but I didn't think the selection was very good. So, you know, I'm going to close out some of these again before I overwhelm my computer. That thing's still going. See, we looked at some cool stuff so far. Flickr. Some people go to Flickr because they do have a free use pool They have something called Creative Commons. If you see anything that says Creative Commons, that means that they are open to the public. There are certain restrictions, but usually they're just completely free with no restrictions at all. So some people say they go to Flickr and get images. Here's their free use photos. They're very nice photos, but they're not necessarily metaphorical. Some of them are. But remember, you know, it's not just nice pictures we want. It's something that's going to match the feel or the content of your website. So I don't, you know, does a dog carrying a stick? I don't know. Maybe depending on the way you've worded your content. So you have to be careful. You have to think about, is this conveying my message? Don't go to regular Flickr and grab somebody's photo and use it for your own, because not all of these images are free to you. Some people just put their photos up here because it's a place to display them. So you want to make sure they're free. Never steal, never take a watermarked image and try to remove the watermark. They will find you, especially Getty. They will hunt you down. I know 2 people that have been caught doing that. Just don't try and steal. Don't Google an image and think it's free. Okay, it's not. It means probably, if it's good enough quality, somebody bought it and you're taking it from them, and you can still get caught doing that. So just want to point that out to you. Don't risk it. Just pay the money. This is one other site with super, really, really nice photos. These are all just completely free to do whatever you want with, which amazes me because they're super photos. This place is called unsplash.com. Unsplash.com. I don't really like that one, but I think some of these other ones are pretty cool. But they don't necessarily, look at that, and they're just sharp. Again, what are they saying? Are they helping your story or not? I hope I'm not making you dizzy by scrolling so much. So that was Unsplash. Again, I'm going to give you this list. Now, finally, been talking a long time. I hope you're still with me. Otherwise, good thing you can pause this and go get more coffee. Canva.com. Yes de resistance, I think, for free or cheap. If you haven't heard of Canva, I am already logged in here. You have to create an account before you can really see or do anything. Creating the account is free. Everybody makes you create an account these days, right? You don't pay for anything until you download. And it's super cheap. You can put together a graphic exactly like one of these. I'm going to click on plus. They have all kinds of sizes. The layouts, I'm not sure that the layouts aren't specifically available, but let's just go through these. They have the dimensions already set up for things like social media, presentations, posters if you're printing, Facebook cover. I'm not sure those are still the correct dimensions because it's changed, but I think they are. A Facebook post, social media, Twitter post, Pinterest, you know, all kinds of cool stuff here. But I know as we scroll down here, and just by the way, just because it's labeled something doesn't mean that's all it can be used for. They just set up the dimensions that way. You can do anything you want with it. So if I scroll all the way to the bottom here, just because I've been here before, you can get like a size of an image that you would put in within your text, that text would wrap around it. So notice that as I mouse over this, it's 300 pixels by 250. So that's actually pretty normal size to put within your text. I'm going to click on that. Okay, so it doesn't load up the picture that we saw, but it loads up the dimensional size. Now look at the first thing you got here. You've got layouts already set up. You've got elements. You could add shapes, illustrations. They're okay. They're just okay. Frames are handy. Some of the shapes are handy. You got different kinds of text types that you can use, but notice they're marked free, but some of them are not free. Let me scroll down. Usually the premium ones are further down. These are all free. Well, they're marked free, so they're free. So that's nice. Or you can just add your own heading and do it yourself, but they have backgrounds. Again, they're marked free. If they're not marked free, they're $1. Just $1. If I click on it, look at that, loads it right into my little square here. There's watermarking on it. So this crisscross and the word Canva will disappear as soon as you download it. So you have to kind of look beyond that and imagine the image without all that stuff on it. But you can load up just by clicking and see what you got going on here. And I don't know if it's layered one on top of the other. No, it's just changed them out. So you can set up backgrounds and do all kinds of stuff, and or you can upload an image that you already have. But if you go to the layouts, you can grab, if you find something again that, even if it's just the layout you like, you can change the image in the background. Or you can just keep the image and just change the text to match your brand or match whatever you want to say. Let's take this beach hammocks. It's free. This whole thing is free right here. You can click, each line of text can be edited. In fact, you can only do one line of text at a time, but I can change that to say, let's see. I put the word tropical in there and it is too big, but I can highlight it and it's 44. I know it needs to go down to about 32 to fit. You could change the color if you want, not only these colors, but if you click on the plus, you can get any kind of color you want. If you know the color code you're trying to match in your website, you can put that in there as well. So click within the box, highlight the text, tropical sounds. I don't know. Since I had to make the other one smaller, I think I'm going to make this one even smaller just to get that large, small effect. Tropical sounds. You can move. It depends how you click on them, so you got to kind of be careful. Get that. Watch what your pointer's doing, and then I can like just hit my arrows to nudge it up a little, and then you can change this text as well. Notice these images, and I click on this tropical little tree thing here. Look at. This is actually a really big image that you can use the whole thing of if you want, or you could turn it, or you can delete it. Place it and just say, I don't want that one. Take it off. You could just have this on the side. And notice this one's kind of turned and off to the side. You can take that and squinch it and do whatever you want to it. So this is pretty sweet, right? Undo, Control Z, works in almost every program. So you can do things like that, and you want to make sure that your text stands out from your background. No drop shadows, but you can do like, remember we've seen where they put a little bit of a background to kind of, that was part transparent. So you could still see the picture through, but you could read the text. You can add pieces like shapes that would do that if you were so inclined. You can change the background color. Let's see if I can change the image. Let me go to like, just for grins. Yeah. Oh, that's terrible, but you can do it. So I added a background image and it has the graphics. So I don't know, that's pretty cool. You can layer stuff in there, and I don't remember if any of this, oh, this background is $1. Remember, our original design was free and the background's $1. So if I decide I get everything just the way I like it, I've changed the text, I've rearranged and everything, and I'm ready to go, and I click download, you want to download the high quality PNG. That's what I would go for. PNGs are, they're not what we call lossy. They just maintain their quality, excuse me, better than a JPEG. So download the high quality PNG. And when you do, I'm not going to click on it. Well, let's see what happens. Yeah, okay. I just want to make sure I didn't spend money. You just pay a little bit at a time. So you enter your credit card information, and here it's $1. So my total due is $1. And then you just put in your credit card information, and then it downloads. And again, this watermark, all this stuff disappears, and you have a beautiful image that you can upload to your website. Oh, that was a marathon, you guys. Let me get back into me. Stop screen sharing. Okay, woo! That was kind of got into a speed speaking there. A lot of information, but you can come back, you know, and obviously you didn't have to watch the whole thing at once. This will always be available on YouTube. It's good information. I gave you guys all the stuff that's like up to date, gave you terminology, showed you the trends of today that you want to keep in mind. Not all of them fit a voiceover, but you want to try and incorporate some of that. Because I just feel like a lot of voiceover websites are they're just left, you know, a lot of people, you're doing them yourself. That's fine. If that's all you can afford, do it yourself, but do it quality. You know, I want you to see what good is. Don't look at other voiceover websites. And that's, I don't know. I maybe have yet to see, you know, some real top quality ones, and I'm open to looking at websites. But when you see what I was showing you and how professional and lovely things can look, that's what you want for your website. You don't want your design to prevent people from purchasing from you, in other words, from hiring you. And it could be even on a subconscious level. Somebody may come into your site and not realize that the visuals are off-putting, but it just gives them a feel that they just don't feel good about hiring you, and they don't even know why. But keep it in mind. All right, enough said. Okay, and I'm sorry again for anybody who tried to do this live with me and it didn't work out. I apologize. Again, leave comments, questions. I'm sorry this went long, and I'm always trying to just give you guys a lot of good information. It just ends up maybe being a little overwhelming. So I'll try not to do that next time. We got another one in 2 weeks. And I forget, I have that topic picked out, but I don't know what it is, and I don't see my calendar here. And after that, I got to come up with some stuff. So again, I'm going to look through suggestions that people have offered. If you have any ideas or thoughts that you'd like to hear about, let me know. Okay. Thank you guys. Have a great day. Okay. Bye-bye.